从一开始我们打 G1的时候，就是连一个就是东南亚的网吧队都赢不了，然后到后面拿了 DSL 的冠军。自从那个周洋来了之后，我们5个人一起有说有笑，默契非常的好。
在离开1Home的时候，那时候比较年轻气盛吧，自己也不怎么努力，队伍换了挺多，但是始终没有冠军。首先挺对不起原来之前1Home队友的，其次就觉得挺对不起自己的吧，因为自己既然选择离开，应该就会比之前更努力，但是我没有这么做。我的加入可能带给TONGFU有不一样的变化，但是我觉得这是我们5个人的努力。
因为去年我们在 TI2 之前是在北京嘛，然后我在北京认识了一个女朋友，所以每天晚上我都去她家睡，所以就是训练完就走，然后平时训练说好了几点，然后又晚回来，所以没有办法就是全心全意。然后但是今年不一样，今年就是全心全意都放在 Dota 上，感情的事什么都没想，就是反正每天都在训练。我如果真的拿到冠军的话，肯定非常感谢我的队友们，然后对我一直以来的支持。
王娇 ，banana， 中国开封。
陈志豪，中国广州。
周洋 KJ， 中国上海。
张盼，木，中国武汉。
王兆辉、山生，中国湖南。
So there we have it, the team of TONGFU. Now last year at the International they did finish up kind of in the 7th place, just outside of the top 6. So if they're able to win this game, they will have a better performance than in the 2012 International. And so far they've been doing pretty well, picking up some good first place finishes over in some of the tournaments that they competed in China. So they seem really good as a team. They seem to be kind of peaking as they've come into 2013. What do you make of the individual players, and what do we expect from them, Jacob and Ben?
I think they've eliminated a lot of the mistakes and maybe gotten some more talent on their roster than they did last time around. Adding King J has really given them some experience and some stable play in their play, and also their drafts are really interesting. They pick a lot of these strength heroes that can fight a long time. They got Pandaren Brewmaster, they got the Clockwork Goblin they utilize a lot. They use the Doombringer, a very sturdy lineup that they like to pick with good shutdown and good initiate basically, and that's like you were saying, they did really good throughout 2013 so far, and that's one of the reasons I had them as my personal favorites going into the tournament. That they were looking shaky in the group stage, I mean, there can be several reasons behind that. I still think they might be a slight favorite to beat FNATIC, and I'd put my rares on them if I had to.
If you had to, you sound like you really love your rares. If someone held,
I'm very clingy to my cosmetic items. Like I don't want to. My heroes are pretty pimp. I don't want to upset anything.
What's your favorite cosmetic item?
Oh,
I mean, every time I play with Jacob, he's like, I'm trying to level up kills on my Bloodseeker items.
Oh yeah, I got the sickest Bloodseeker in
every single time.
My Bloodseeker is the best. I almost have 1,000 kills on it. So, but my favorite item is the Hood of the Hierophant for Omni Knight. It looks so sweet. He's like a monk and just comes out with his big hammer and smashes you on the head. I love that.
Man, I always game away my Omni Knight items.
Yeah, well, I never played the hero, but he looks sick.
I think that Banana's one of the strongest supports on the scene. I think he's probably the second on the Fantasy League, only behind EGM of Team Alliance. So I also think that Sansheng has really stepped it up. Before, I kind of thought that there was this big discrepancy between Banana and Sansheng, but they've really leveled it out. Sansheng has been playing pretty respectably well. Mu has been playing some unusual heroes too. I saw him on Kunkka the other day in an old school SD and Kunkka mid, so they do have some unusual strategies up their sleeve. And their carry player, the carry Hao is very, very strong too. I think he's also performing well in the fantasy.
I was standing behind Hao at TI1, so this is 2 years ago. And this was before I really had much experience with any of the players from China. And watching him play the Weaver, not missing a single last hit for 16 minutes, really, really impressed me, because back then, you know, everyone was bad at the game anyways. So he's just one of the best carries that China has to offer. He's like on level with Burning and Black from Europe. And I'm really impressed with what he can, like if he gets the room or space needed, he can just shut down the entire game on his own with all the farm he's amassed. So a very impressive player.
Yeah, and that's something Bruno said. When they're ahead, they win 2-0. When they lose 2-0. So the team that they're up against, who are going to have to decide if they're going to give him that much room, are of course going to be their opponents, FNATIC.
Hey, I'm Tal Isaac. My nickname is Fly. I'm playing for Team FNATIC and I'm from Kfar Saba, Israel. Right now I'm a player for full time, but I'm also doing some stuff on the side for Commando Krav Maga. It's a self-defense system. Like there is normal Krav Maga and then this is a newer version. Recently I did injure my wrist a bit at the gym, so I can still play, but it kind of hurts when I play.
My name is Johan Sundstein. My nickname is Notel. I play for FNATIC and I'm from Copenhagen, Denmark. I'm a great guy, like best as they get. So, I would say I'm a very loose kind of guy. I love being sarcastic. I used to go to school. Now I game full time and I have been for 2 years.
Winning this year's international will mean quite a huge deal to me since we've been working a year now to get here.
Winning the international would be obviously the biggest achievement we could get.
I would like to win the group stage and then head into playoffs and feel really confident. Even if we don't win, I will be really psyched to be here because it's once in a lifetime opportunity.
Being here is already so great. You set a goal, like a big goal, and you achieve the goal, like it's the best feeling you can have. The chances of seeing Meepo are definitely there, and I don't think they're as low as you might think. So, screw the money. There you one game with Meepo at TI, you ain't got nothing on me.
Adrian Cresio, Era, Ulricehamn, Sweden.
Tal Isaac, Fly, Kfar Saba, Israel.
Khan Bukas, Hani, Düsseldorf, Germany.
Johan Sundstein, Notel, Copenhagen, Denmark.
Kalle Saarinen, Trixie, Helsinki, Finland.
So there you have it. That completes the roster of FNATIC. That's the name you should know them by. Other people also know them by Hontrash, and they're from absolutely everywhere, these guys. But they are, for me, one of my personal favorite teams to follow through any tournament, just to even hang out with. And you can already tell from the video, just a great bunch of guys, and that does actually help when you comes down and plays Dota. But Bruno, what do you think of FNATIC so far? I don't think anyone would have believed that someone that transferred to Dota just almost a year ago, just over a year ago.
Well, a little bit more, but last year they weren't performing at all. They were kind of this team that everyone invited to tournaments because they had people that everyone knew. They came from other games, and right now they're pretty much strong. Even before TI, now they came strong. They beat Navi. They are very, very solid at what they do. I actually I have a list of everything about every teams. So I got a page here on my FNATIC, and it says, of course there's the Meeple, but the most interesting thing here is that they have no hero under 50% win rate, other than just heroes that they played once. So every hero that they play more than once, they win with it. They are very, very knowledgeable on what they do, and even though they don't have the biggest of hero pools, they do know how to play. They were the trendsetters we were talking about. They get their Weaver, they get their DK, they get all these Chen, Race or trending heroes, and it's all about them controlling the draft and from there getting into the victories.
I like your book.
It's pretty nice.
Have you got, is it like a stat book which goes beyond Dota as well? Do you have like stats on me in there or anybody else?
Yeah, but we'll get there in day 4.
Day 4?
Day 4.
All right. So Ben, what do you make of FNATIC and their chances going up against TONGFU?
Well, FNATIC I think is the only surprise in the winners bracket. I think some people would have subbed Zenith in for them, but they came out beating Navi 2-0.
Well, one of the things about beating Navi in this tournament early on, I have to say, I'm going to defend Navi a little bit. They didn't have the best time and luck in terms of travel and attending the event. So I think the first day with Navi, even though FNATIC did beat them, Navi probably weren't all there, but you can't take it away from FNATIC like Puppy actually said to me, he said, even though we lost that and we had a bad time traveling, FNATIC played amazing. So it'll be nice if we get to see them go up against each other again.
Right. There's been some speculation that the reason that Alliance picked LGD was because that Alliance has been constantly scrimming with FNATIC. And FNATIC, that's probably why they're looking so strongly. They've just been constantly scrimming with one of the top teams. And I can't count them out on this. I can't put it at more than 50-50 for either team.
All right. And
like Ben said, it's very hard to predict the win on this. I would love for Fnatic to win. They're a great bunch of guys, and you could just see the passion in No-Tail wanting to just play Meepo. He didn't really care too much about the money, apparently. I mean, it's not that much of a big of a deal for a Danish guy. We were loaded anyways, but playing Meepo in this tournament would be amazing. I would love to see that. The thing is, they can't get Chen and Meepo, so because.
And that's the other thing. Of course, I want to see Meepo as well, but I would also really like to see No-Tail's Wisp. And it's really surprising because this guy can play lots of different heroes. Chen is something very, very noteworthy, as you said. It's Meepo. The Wisp would be something interesting. TONGFU, they do not play Wisp that much. Maybe they do not respect it, and that would be very, very nice to see as well.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of Wisp picks or bans, and it's been like in the games that's been picked. Is it on a 50-50 win rate right now?
Yeah,
yeah. So maybe TONGFU won't respect Wisp as much, and we'll see No-Tail get that Wisp up and going, and we might even see a Chaos Knight from Mero rather than his life stealer, and I hope we can see some of the classic Fnatic play rather than just what the trend we've seen in group stage.
But they kind of started the Wisp a long time ago. They were one of the first teams that started playing lots of Wisp back when, if you remember, after TI2 the hero came and everyone was a little bit hesitant. Fnatic started playing with it. Then some of the Russian teams, all the Team Empire, used to play it a lot with CK, and that's when the hero grew out of proportion and invaded the Western scene.
The other European player that got famous for playing the Wisp was actually Phonic before he moved to the offlane. He played a ton of Wisp. And like you were saying, Empire and Fnatic probably the most dominant team throughout the winter of 2012-2013, and that was largely in part to Wisp and CK.
Yep, Fnatic have been, of course, as you mentioned, playing great in the prelims just before the main event that we're here, and I believe we have some stats on Fnatic for you, Bruno. This is all for you.
Let's go and see.
We're going to be looking at Fly because we talked about No-Tail, but it is a duo on the support, and Fly is someone that brings a lot to the table.
Yep, it's a very strong duo, and it's all about these heroes that allow him to be a big part of in the middle of the fight. Vengeful Spirit getting in between everyone, Enigma getting the good blink initiation and getting the big black hole, Crystal Maiden, if she can survive, throw an ultimate, and then Visage. I think Visage is kind of cheating because Visage has been doing so well all around the tournament. Just having that hero, the amount of nuke damage that he can deal at early levels 3 to 7, is amazing, and Fnatic is a team that knows how to exploit this very well. So Fly, one of the main pillars of this very strong team.
Yeah, and what I enjoy with Fly as well, he can do so much with so little item-wise. I always see him really just being involved. A lot of times he does get picked off. He is the kind of guy in the team fights that you'll see like, okay, Fly's gone again. But if it goes his way, he really gives opportunities and builds opportunities for his teammates to be able to do something amazing in the team fight. So, his play with No-Tail's kind of skill and his hero pool is just such a nice lineup for the Fnatic team. And I have to say, Trixie is someone that has really impressed me this tournament. I don't know if did you see his Clockwork games?
I want to say yes, but no.
So he was just, okay, that's fine. He was just hitting like blind hooks, and it was just absolutely amazing. And Clockwork is a hero that we've also mentioned TONGFU can kind of be fond of. So who knows who's going to be able to pick up the Clockwork?
I'd love to see it regardless. Like, both teams executed very well apparently. I haven't seen much of Fnatic's Clockwork, but it's just a fun hero to see in game, and it's going to leave a lot for the spectators to really appreciate, because the hero offers so much aggression for the team that has the hero. I think TONGFU is going to value it a bit higher than Fnatic. Fnatic probably has other priorities.
So what's your prediction for this matchup? Milk?
The total score? I'd say TONGFU wins it 2-1. My heart prays that Fnatic does, just because I love every player on the team. But TONGFU 2-1.
I'll have to agree with that. TONGFU 2-1. It's going to be a close series, I think. I don't think any of the games will be stomps.
Bruno, what do you think?
I actually was heading into this tournament. I was saying TONGFU, but now I want to believe in Fnatic 2-1. If only because I'm looking at TONGFU right now, and when we talked about how their strength heroes are key, this DK mid, Alchemist mid, they do like their farmers. They're not doing very well. They're 1-2 with DK and 1-3 with Alchemist when they're playing it mid. So their biggest strength is just not there. They're having to play different stuff like OD and things they're not used to, and just because they are forced to play out of their comfort zone, I think Fnatic has the edge this time.
All right, yeah, I've got my prediction as well. I've actually been throwing out my predictions on Twitter, by the way.
They're not working. You just call them.
No. Like I've changed my strategy. So my prediction for this is Fnatic beat Na'Vi 2-1. I've just skipped this game. And I've gone way ahead.
That's like the finals of the winner's bracket.
Because if I don't, because the games I keep predicting, they don't go the way that my predictions are going.
Okay.
Right. So I'm just going to say that they win, but predict the next game.
Oh,
that's too next level for me, James.
See how that's working?
That's not how it works.
So I predict they get through, and then put the prediction on the next game. It's
and when
work.
they don't get through,
but
the next prediction is also.
Look, it makes a lot of sense. You just have to go to Twitter, everybody watching, and go to @follow2good.
Wow, shameless plug.
Yes. Apparently they're telling me to get off camera now. So we're sending it to the game. And it is, of course, going to be TONGFU versus Fnatic. It's the other upper bracket match today. It's going to be a best of 3. And once again, best of luck to both the teams.
TONGFU versus Fnatic. Greetings and salutations, Dota fans. Welcome into the International 2013. We're live here on the floor of beautiful Benaroyo Hall in downtown Seattle with our second best of 3 of the day. It's going to be an East versus West showdown. TONGFU taking on Fnatic. Now, Draskell, you and I got a chance to see both of these teams in action a lot throughout the preliminary stage. Both of these teams are playing remarkably good Dota right now. And as Too Good and the rest of the analysts has said, there's really no way to pick a favorite here. Either of these teams could walk away with the win because they're both peaking and playing with some real momentum.
I couldn't agree more. Both these teams just on an absolute roll. Fnatic especially. Like James said, on LAN, Fnatic does have a tendency to overperform, but that's never a bad thing, of course, coming into an event like this. And I just want to point out really quick, no hesitation on the Weaver Treant. It was just immediate, so Trixie's probably going to get his hands on that. And TONGFU starting off with the Lifestealer Chen, so we have a good opportunity to maybe see some early push potential coming out of TONGFU.
Oh, yeah.
But interestingly enough, they actually take out the DK instead.
Oh, yeah, and you look at TONGFU, their first 2 picks, the Lifestealer and the Chen. We've seen this run by a variety of teams, including Fnatic. This is a composition that Fnatic knows how to run and certainly is going to know how to deal with, at least in one way or another. Very aggressive lineup, very much a guns forward kind of a lineup. You want to get the Chen moving forward. Certainly you want to put the Lifestealer's mid-game efficiency and mid-game effectiveness to use as quickly as you can. But when you look at what Fnatic has with the Weaver and the Treant Protector, that's a very surgical sort of a combination. You let the Weaver just basically be a little guerrilla fighter, getting behind enemy lines, making things happen across the map. And that can really confound a Chen lineup in a lot of ways. If you're able to just slow down the push, slow down the team trying to get together and get moving towards a tower, and just take them out of that early game momentum or that early game kind of aggression, you can completely shut down a lineup, even one as effective as a Lifestealer Chen.
It could very well be the case, and let's also not forget that Tree against push lineups. Say, for instance, you're having a decent early game, but you fail to push a tier 1 tower. Tree's going to have that tower back to full health, usually by the time you get back.
Right.
So it puts a lot more emphasis on TONGFU to make their early pushes execute a lot better. And once Tree gets around 6-7, granted this is likely to be a support tree, so it could take a while, but if it does end up happening, Overgrowth becomes a very powerful tool at stopping pushes just in itself, and you have Leech Seed to partner with that. So we'll have to see how aggressive Fnatic want to play this. Do they want to really defend their towers? TONGFU picking the Lifestealer Chen so early, it does kind of give you a hint of what their game plan is going to be.
Oh, absolutely. And you take a look at the bans that are coming out right now. TONGFU with the Chen and the Lifestealer, getting rid of the DK and the Timbersaw. And we've actually seen Timbersaw just come to a whole new level of popularity over the preliminary stage. We didn't see that hero hardly at all, but people are beginning to realize just how good he is at a number of things. He can be aggressive, but he's also great at anti-push. Getting rid of that. Getting rid of the DK, just a very strong mid-game fighter. It doesn't need a whole lot of items, just needs a few levels and can shut down pushes very efficiently. But Fnatic picking up the Nature's Prophet, so he's going to be a 2-tree kind of a lineup with the Treant Protector and the Nature's Prophet. But whenever you see that kind of global presence, already coming out with the global presence of Treant Protector's Living Armor and You really put it about as well as anyone could. They just don't want to allow TONGFU to get that guns forward lineup with the guns forward. They don't want to allow them to watch against the tower and then have to worry about the puck's long-range initiation. Crystal Maiden, one of the best 1 through 5 heroes in the entire game. Treant Protector, of course, makes every lane winnable no matter what the situation happens to be. But it really is going to be FNATIC that's going to be under the gun to execute early on, because if TONGFU can stabilize, if they can get a few core items up, get a Blink Dagger up on the puck, get Lifestealer and Armlet or something like that, depending on what he wants to build, and get Chin an early mechanism, it's going to be really difficult for this lineup of FNATIC to slow that down. As good as Crystal Maiden is, and as good as Weaver can be in certain situations, when you look at their lineup, this is not a fight you 5-on-5 head up kind of a lineup. It just is not going to win against the Lifestealer that has an adequate amount of farm or a puck that lands a good coil. We are going to see TONGFU go ahead and grab up with their 4th pick, that Rubik, and again, just an overall good hero, and look how many awesome spells there are for him to steal just between Shikuchi and Living Armor alone.
Just stealing Living Armor is a nightmare.
Huge.
I mean, you turn somebody into a god, essentially. That's pretty much what happens. And the thing about FNATIC's lineup, too, is they don't have many heroes who do damage over time, per se. I mean, Leech Seed ticks a few times, and so does Frostbite, but that's it. You're not really going to have a way to eat through it that effectively. So if he can manage to get his hands on that, it's going to be great for the team. Right. But it's also a very defensive support in general, at least in the laning phase. Telekinesis is very strong, just because you can land like double, maybe even triple stuns. And if FNATIC are planning on running that aggressive tri-lane, then it would be really good to have a Rubik in the lane. So TONGFU, obviously they did one more, so did FNATIC. For TONGFU, they needed an offlaner, and I want to talk about the bounty ban really fast, because if you look at FNATIC's team, they didn't have anyone who could really deal with a bounty hunter during the mid-game. Typically, big AoE teamfight lineups or heavy push is what hurts bounty the most. But FNATIC have none of that, so they basically are just saying, we know that there's a chance that if we're offlaning our tri-lane, that we want to make sure that a bounty hunter is not going to get anything, and during the mid-game, we don't get punished hard for our mistakes, because TONGFU can't be really given anything extra here.
Looking at FNATIC's lineup, we've seen them do some weird things in terms of that mid position. It seems like a mid is exactly what they're going to want and need at this point, but we have seen them do things like run the Nature's Prophet there, run the Weaver there. So this is a little bit more of an ambiguous lineup than when first meet the eye. But right now, I feel like they need someone that gives them some punch. When you look, again, you really made the point. When you look at this team, this is a team who can fight all over the map, who's going to be able to exert a tremendous amount of map control. Any kind of drifting, any kind of roaming, ganking style is going to be very effective, but they just are going to struggle so much against TONGFU if they're able to force an issue on their side of the river. So waiting to see what they're going to grab up here. Of all the mids available, well, they're going to go ahead and grab a Viper. Now, seeing that Viper pick is actually interesting, Draskell. At DreamHack Summer, I was talking to Era before his matches there, and I asked FNATIC, looking ahead to the International through DreamHack and DreamHack Valencia, so on and so forth, what hero he thought was the strongest, that was getting the least amount of attention, and he identified Viper. So this is a hero that they're not just picking to throw a curveball. This is something they have practiced and something that they have planned to pull out for quite some time.
I like the Viper pick for a lot of reasons, too. First and foremost, against a Lifestealer, if you're a tree, if you look at FNATIC's lineup right now, they actually don't have a lot of ways to hold him down through Rage. Nature's Prophet can sprout, of course, but I'm sure the Lifestealer at some point might just buy a Quelling Blade to be able to cut through it. So what is going to end up happening is Treant is going to use his ultimate, the Lifestealer is going to Rage, and then he's going to get Viper ulted, and then he's going to not really be able to do much of anything. So it gives you two methods of stopping him through that Rage that makes it so FNATIC have a lot of leniency when they're in those team fights. So I really do like FNATIC's lineup. I'm not actually sure if the Viper is going to be the one buying the mech or it's going to be the Prophet here. I would kind of lean towards the Viper, just because he's going to be getting the free farm, of course, or well, not necessarily free farm, but we'll see how FNATIC end up landing it. And TONGFU ends things up with a Gyro, so more AoE teamfight coming out from TONGFU. Pretty standard draft, actually, from them. It's a little bit heavier on the push side because of the Chen, but for the most part, it's just really early game aggression.
Seeing them pick up that gyrocopter, I absolutely love, because they had the range and, again, the initiation of a puck. And we talk so often about how important that is. Having heroes that can make the enemy feel uncomfortable behind their own towers whenever you do run any sort of a push lineup. What they were lacking a little bit was direct AoE damage, and they got a ton of it in that gyrocopter pickup. An absolute magic damage monster in the early game. 690 unmitigated magic damage coming off a rocket barrage if you can isolate it onto a single target. And the call down, really what I love there, being able to chain together a nice coil, a waning rift, so on and so forth, with the call down. That gives them the ability to not just focus fire one target, but to be able to take out FNATIC if they group up and make any kind of a mistake in positioning. Looks like we are going to have both teams moving out towards the dire side jungle, so we'll keep an eye on this. But looking forward to this match. And again, it comes down to, we had talked about these teams, you and I personally. Hold on, actually. King J is going to go ahead and poke his nose out. He's going to see a Treant or two. We'll see if Fnatic's interested in fighting. Doesn't look like they are, as they're pulling Fly and Hani back already. So it is going to be Era, and for the moment, at least No-Tail hanging back here. And we see Trixie actually making his way back to the well. So a little bit of longing glares, some curse words and such thrown at each other, but it looks like that's about as violent as it's going to get. Can't quite get in range of open wounds, and preemptively already seeing the living armor. So little bit of the barnyard dance here, just pawing at the ground and snorting at each other. Looks like they will go ahead and pull back. But what I was going to say about these teams is, we've seen Fnatic peak so much and get so good so quick since their latest boot camp. And then TONGFU. Talking to a lot of folks in the know about the Chinese scene, they will tell you TONGFU is one of the best teams, but yet one of the most underrated at the same time.
I think this match is way too close to call, honestly.
Yep.
Between the two teams, this might be one of the closest matches that we're not only going to have of the day, but maybe of even the entire tournament. And talk about Fnatic's bad luck with DD. How picks up one again. I'm sure everybody has seen the other Fnatic game where I believe an AM got a DD and it did not turn out so well for Fnatic. So they're going to have to deal with that here this time. But very expected of Fnatic. They are going to be running the aggressive try. Lifestealer actually decided to not go to lane top. He decided to go bottom instead, which is a really good choice because King J with his Stout Shield doesn't necessarily care about the Treant damage so much, and that matchup is much more favorable for him than it would be even for a Gyro, because in his safe lane, Trixie would be able to harass pretty easily with his Treants and probably end up coming out on top. Then you have a matchup that we don't really see that often mid. It's a Viper versus a Puck, and the one thing that's really annoying now about Corrosive Skin is that it hits you even when you get hit by spells, and you can't really phase shift all the damage. So even if he's taking a bit of harassment, Hani, with the addition of Tree Armor, is going to be doing just fine.
Oh yeah, and again, that's the effect of the Treant Protector pick. You get wrapped up in how well he works at the Weaver, but basically, especially when you run an offensive tri-lane like this, you've got two heroes isolated in one-on-ones. That's where Tree makes the biggest difference. We can already see Hani just doing quite well for himself here in mid. The Puck, though, certainly going to be able to catch back up eventually. Taking a look at Banana, of course, he's going to be left completely to his own devices, at least for the moment. But what's going to be important is when he does rotate over to this top lane. Right now, it doesn't look like that Hal's going to need any help at all. It's obviously just Era who's trying to trade last hits with him. But when he does come out, if he can catch Fnatic out of position and punish them, should be problematic. At bottom, our other one-on-one matchup going to be Trixie taking on King J. Trixie on the Nature's Prophet against this Lifestealer should certainly not be a problem for the LS. He'll take a little harassment, and once the Nature's Prophet gets some phase boots, he should be okay for the most part. But still, there always is that kill potential when it's an LS versus any hero in a one-on-one.
And we've seen that before in the past, actually. There were a couple of games where I believe it was Hal playing it, but he ended up getting first blood. Or not first blood, but he killed Mushi 1v1 mid when Mushi was Timbersaw. That was like really awkward. But regardless, I think honestly bottom is probably going to go better for Trixie. Eventually, once you get phase boots, the Stout Shield doesn't really matter as much anymore, and you're going to start over-harassing and being able to push him out of the lane. And Hani and Mu mid are just kind of like man-fighting. And Hani says, yep, you can't really trade with me because level 2 Nether Toxin is actually very strong. And again, with that Corrosive Skin, it's actually really annoying for Mu right now. Hani is doing a great job mid.
Living Armor certainly making a huge difference. And we can see every time we take a look at Hani, he is kind of low, but then Living Armor again. Just makes it so frustrating to be playing any one-on-one situation. So far, it's been a relatively quiet early game. We take a look at the CS. We can see Chen, who's been left to his own devices in the jungle. He's sitting at the top at 17. 13 for Gyrocopter, so he's winning that battle. The Weaver only with 6 right now. We'll talk about that momentarily. 12 in mid for the Viper, so he's doing great. And actually, as you had mentioned, Hani, and this is due in large part to the Living Armor, but still, his last inning is just excellent. He's sitting at 13 to the 7, or excuse me, to the 5 of that Puck. So up at top, we're seeing Hal just left completely alone now as Rubik's just beginning to rotate around the jungle, try and find some experience. He's just short of level 3, and Lifestealer now even engaging in some pulling. So neither of these teams really all that interested in trying to crack the early game open that fast.
Speaking of, TONGFU actually smoke up here mid. They want to try to go around. Hani is pretty much the only target on the map right now that TONGFU could possibly go for. And Tree Armor is still only level 1, and of course that's after the nerf, so it doesn't have nearly as many instances. And this could be an opportunity if Hani isn't aware, but I'm pretty sure that he's onto something because he's starting to very defensively position himself here.
Yep, staying back towards that tower, realizing that something's going on. We're going to see No-Tail and Fly. They're going to run right into them. Sansheng sees No-Tail. There's going to be the lift, bringing him back. Nova from low ground. There's going to be one net. No-Tail's in trouble, taking a lot of damage. Living Armor, not going to be good enough. Give him first blood. Sansheng draws first blood on No Tail. Puck gets there. Now we're going to have Gyrocopter coming in to engage. Fly's in trouble. Fly making a run for it. That's going to make it 2-0. Honey trying to get back to mid, and Era salving up on the high ground, giving a little harassment. We can see that they're doing some pretty good damage, but TONGFU just handling themselves much better in that fight, and a 2-0 lead early on as we see Era chasing up Hao's tailpipe a little bit. But yeah, that hurts a little bit. Don't isolate yourself against a gyro unless you got help coming. Nonetheless, 2-0, TONGFU takes the lead.
A really interesting decision by No Tail. He walked up. I think that was actually the worst direction to run. If he had run back towards the river, he might have gone through Hao, but at the very least, I think the rest of his team would have been in a better position because Mu, of course, reacted straight away, and he was able to get himself in, and of course, TONGFU take the 2-kill lead. So FNATIC now, their lane top is not really feeling as productive as they would want it to, and No Tail's been standing out of experience range for quite some time, so he's still only level 1. I think he was favoring getting Fly a couple of extra levels because CM desperately needs them, but with only level 1 tree armor, it doesn't really make you feel as safe as maybe you would like to, especially since we know that TONGFU is going to be trying to pressure mid quite often. But in terms of the individual lanes, mid is still going better for FNATIC, and so is bottom lane, so I don't think they're going to hurt tremendously from that, but it's definitely not a good thing.
And Prophet TP's away. King J did not have enough mana for open wounds anyway. We can see Banana's actually going to be getting a huge benefit here. I had the camera there momentarily. He had a huge stack of creeps here. So look at his gold. He's already up to 1,200 gold in the bank. He's now 350 as he finally cleans up the rest of that camp. He's going to be able to go ahead and one-shot by Arc Boots very, very soon. And what you're going to see is either a mech rush or they're going to start moving around trying to isolate heroes and pick them off that way. One thing that does bother me a lot, and you pointed it out, is the fact that it is just level 1 tree armor right now. That just having 1 point into that, and he's not even level 2 yet, so he's going to have to get another level at some point. Having just 1 level into that really negates the ability for Weaver to play as aggressive. Up, down here, we're going to see the courier picked off. So the chicken cleaned up by some rotating supports in the Chen. And the Rubik moving around from TONGFU. Now they're going to go ahead and show their faces down here. Trixie has the help of Fly, but that's a Chen and a Rubik now making this essentially an offensive tri-lane. And we'll see how they're going to deal with that. This isolates the Weaver now at top against the Gyrocopter. The Gyro in pretty good shape at 28 CS, especially in comparison to the Weaver. But Weaver has played catch-up pretty well, now sitting at 20. So he's not going to be one of those ineffective Weavers who just starves to death through the early game.
Well, FNATIC's game plan, most importantly, has already not come to fruition, at least during the laning phase. If you look at it on paper, they probably had 3 lane wins just because of their heroes. Of course, we talked about the Viper and how good he was doing. He has 26 denies,
right,
and it's 7 minutes in. This puck has 11 creep kills. That's how badly he's winning this lane. So the longer this goes on unobstructed, TONGFU are going to be having a worse and worse time. And they realize this, of course. Banana and Sansheng are both in the woods here. They're making their way towards mid. Looks like they want to try to go for it, but in the meantime, top, they might be going on Hao as well.
And Hao going to be sprouted in. Here we go. Cooldown's going to wear him off. Era, very low health, but being healed up with the living armor. Trixie making his way up, but unable to get the kill as Hao, again, just sitting in too good of a position. He's level 7.5 to the level 5.5 of the Weaver, and just level 6 of Trixie. So nice gank attempt, but unfortunately, and then here in mid, we're going to have some action break out. There's going to be another net down, and we're going to see Hani taking a lot of damage, couple more auto attacks. He is, no, finally cleaned up as TONGFU able to net themselves another kill, and FNATIC continuing to fall further and further behind. That's a very important kill for them, as you had mentioned, dominating this mid lane. And now if TONGFU can get some damage done to the tower, tough enough to do that with tree armor though, but just try to get a little bit of damage done to the tower and try to make something happen to free this lane up.
I think FNATIC are still okay, but things are definitely going wrong. They can't get Hani picked off anymore. They can't afford to make any more mistakes because their lineup, like I was mentioning before in the draft, is meant to not ever let things like this happen in the first place. You only aggressively tri-lane against a Chen if you don't want the Chen to move on other lanes, because at the very least you can move in time with that. And that's pretty much what FNATIC were trying to do when we saw No Tail end up getting caught out of position in the rivers. So FNATIC, they've actually rotated Era bottom now. They realize they need to start prioritizing him over Trixie in the lane, and of course Trixie can just jungle anyway. So the rotations coming out of FNATIC are pretty much necessary, but I don't think it's something that they wanted to have happen. So TONGFU is still doing a really good job with their movement, and Hani, even though he got ganked, Mu still can't really do anything in this mid lane.
Absolutely. We can see Mu sitting at level 7. Viper's a full level ahead of him despite dying. That's how dominant he's been in that lane other than that one death. So still sitting at 9 minutes, 3 kills on the board. It's a relatively quiet game. We're going to see San Sheng, and he's got a passenger. He may be coming in. They're going to throw the coil. Haste room, coil on Hani. And get ready. Here's the lift. Out comes King J. Open wounds is going to be there, and he's netted down. Could not have executed it better. And TONGFU, even blowing the hand of God, looks like they want to push this lane and force some sort of a reaction out of FNATIC. But as of right now, as we approach 10 minutes in, they've got 4 kills to 0. We take a look at the goal graph. They're already putting together a relatively impressive early game lead in both experience and gold.
This really hurts FNATIC because if they lose this mid tower, it becomes very difficult for Tree to really feel as useful. Like, you want Tree to be able to keep your tier 1s alive for as long as possible. That is the biggest goal, because you lose control of the map so much more, especially when your mid tower dies. But it doesn't look like TONGFU is willing to fully commit to this. And like I was mentioning before, if you don't fully commit to a tower against a Tree, that tower could be at full health by the time you get to see it again. So that's one of the nice things that FNATIC's lineup has to fall back on. The downside is that Treant is just now hit level 4, and the Crystal Maiden is only level 4 too, whereas Rubik is nearing level 6 and Chen's almost 8. So the supports on TONGFU definitely getting the better this early game, and at some point something's got to give. FNATIC, I really did like their draft and the way they laned it, but they are giving away so much in terms of kills and letting TONGFU pretty much do whatever they want right now.
What really worries me for FNATIC is we talked about it during the draft. They picked a team that wants to be surgical. They want to get out and make things happen in smaller skirmishes. This is not the strongest 5-on-5 teamfight hero or composition you've ever seen, especially when you compare it to TONGFU, that has 2 monsters of 5-on-5 in Puck and Gyro. Then you have the longevity that a Chin's going to give you. This is the worst situation they could be in, where TONGFU is able to just get guns forward and push across the river. Now, this tower has been healed up a bit, but not nearly that much. And now when FNATIC having to face this out, I don't even know how they can begin to engage. And maybe if they had a Tree who could walk in an overgrowth, but even then, it doesn't matter. The TONGFU is just in too good of a position right now.
Well, it wasn't supposed to get to this point, because if you look at FNATIC's team, outside of the Nature's Prophet ulti and I guess CM Nova, they have no real form of D-push. I guess you can Shikuchi spam as well, but it's not necessarily that mana efficient, at least for Era to be using his mana that way. But they were supposed to, again, just win the lanes really hard and all mat top.
Got really greedy. He's going to get away, though, because No-Tail, not being level 6, they had no way to slow him down or to knock him out of the TP. So manages to survive. Moving back out a little bit, we can see he's still sitting down near the bottom of the CS at just 27. He is making good progress towards his Blink Dagger, though. Only needs about another 600 gold, give or take. Meanwhile, the Prophet making progress towards his Might. It's been relatively quiet. We've seen him bounce around from time to time, but his movement is going to be especially important once FNATIC begins to stabilize, if they can stabilize. As of right now, I mean, it's not completely out of control by any stretch of the imagination, but whenever you see a graph that is just not just dipping down because you lose a fight, but on a slow downhill slope, this means something's got to change. You have to change your game plan, otherwise you're going to wake up 10,000 gold behind with no way to play your way back in.
Oh, Trixie, San Sheng, Wishikuchi, and a bug inside of him. Well,
and
Life Stealer.
Trixie in trouble, going to be telekinesis back, and finally he's brought down 5-0. TONGFU. Basically, TONGFU's executing the game plan that FNATIC drafted to execute. They're just moving and picking single heroes off from time to time, and it's built them a hell of a lead. And really, when you look at this, I mean, look at the Weaver. Weaver has Treads and his Aquila. That's about it. I mean, the DV's certainly going to help. But the rest of the heroes, even the Viper, who was so dominant in mid, is now beginning to fall off in terms of pure last hits. He's down near the middle of the pack. And this Chen, played by Banana, he's not far from that mech at all. What in the world is FNATIC going to do if he's able to get a mech up by 15 minutes?
There's going to be too much of a difference in gold, and TONGFU might have overstayed his welcome here a bit, but can
look at that damage. Yep, there's the overgrowth. Finally, FNATIC makes their way onto the board. In the meantime, in mid, look at that tower, by the way. Hang on, there's going to be a coil thrown onto... Okay, that used to be a Crystal Maiden. Not sure. She just completely evaporated. But 6-1, TONGFU gets a return kill for the cost of their carry, who died at top. But Life Stealer managing to he killed a tower. I'm trying to find where, but yeah,
bottom tier 1. They were split pushing. Him and San Sheng were down there the whole time, and even though Hao basically went in and died behind a tier 1, it doesn't matter if they're counter pressuring 2 towers. Honestly, trading his life for that safe lane tower is probably worth it for them at this point, just because they know that they got so far ahead in the laning phase comparative to what they were actually supposed to get.
Right.
And the Life Stealer having the armlet, the Chen having the mech, this is becoming a nightmare very quickly for Fnatic because their team is not built to push or counter push against this kind of a lineup that reaches its maximum potential this quickly. So Fnatic's game plan kind of falling apart here. Not that they're totally out of it just yet, but they definitely have an uphill battle ahead of them.
Well, what's going to be hard is, at this pace, TONGFU can completely set the pace of the game. They could set the tone of the game. When Fnatic's lineup was really predicated on the idea that they would do that. They would be the ones who determined where the little skirmish fights took place. But it's like we talked about during the draft, verbatim. We said, if they get a set of core items up, they're just going to be able to just face forward and walk down a lane, and Fnatic's going to have a hard time stopping them. And that's assuming even farm, and it's certainly anything but. As we can see, that gold lead is ballooning to 7,500 now, and the experience, although they've stopped the bleeding, it's still 5,000. Against the lineup with the Chen and a support Rubik, you would think that they would be able to kind of keep pace, but for now, TONGFU looking to hook up with Hal. They're going to hang back and hope that Fnatic reacts to Hal and tries to slow this down en masse, and this is exactly what they want. They're moving their entire team up to this lane and just waiting for Fnatic to show their face, because this is a situation in which they can thrive, and it looks like Fnatic is not at all taking the bait. They're just willing to sack this.
They don't really have a choice anymore. I think they saw that Banana finished the mech and they were like, nope, we can't really do anything about this, try to counter push. What Fnatic may do, and might actually only be their only game plan, is to fall back in a split push mode because they have a Nature's Prophet and a very mobile hero and a Weaver and Tree Armor to save from counter ganks. The problem is, I'm not sure if Tree Armor is actually going to save them anymore because Mu has a Blink and the Lifestealer has Armlet, so if those two initiate on you, it might be a bit too much damage before you could actually TP away. So TONGFU definitely looking really, really good here in game one. Fnatic, if they didn't have a Crystal Maiden support, I would honestly say that it wasn't so bad. But Crystal Maiden he doesn't do really anything at this point. He can cast Crystal Nova, which is a decent deep push, and his mana pool is never really going to suffer because Arcane Aura doubles the effect on himself. But what is the CM going to do against this kind of a push?
I want to point out this tower at one point was within about 10% of its health and all the way back to full. Again, just the effect of a Treant Protector. But yeah, I mean, whenever you draft a Crystal Maiden, the idea usually behind a CM is to win your lanes 1 through 5 because that's when she's excellent. She begins to taper off very, very quickly, and by now usually she's still useful, but they've just fallen so far behind that hell, even at this point, the Weaver's beginning to feel pretty useless. I mean, you're just not seeing the damage output they're going to need to deal with what TONGFU can bring to bear in the Lifestealer and everything else. We are going to see a kill take place as Mu and King J manage to find themselves a free one down at bottom. Watching mid, TONGFU did take the tier 1. Looks like they're in no rush, though. Going to go ahead and pull back. 7-1, though, remains their advantage. And yeah, we're getting very near 5 digits.
The thing that's really scary about TONGFU is that they just now have decided to do Roshan for the first time. They probably could have done it earlier, but there's no real point in doing it earlier because the later you take the Roshan, if you know your opponents can't get it at all, which fighting in the pit against Hao with his call down and of course the Chen, the puck, it's really dangerous for Fnatic to take that fight anyway. If you take it later, there's a good chance that if you do win the team fight after the fact, the later the game goes, the more the team fights matter, of course. So if you can take it a little bit later, it's definitely to your benefit. And they know the tier 1 on every actual tier 1 is dead on the side of Fnatic. So free Roshan for TONGFU. Fnatic not quite in a position to counter push just yet. They're going to get there just in time to realize that, oh yeah, they killed that, and if they TP, we're probably going to have to back.
Oh man, Banana's actually got himself a medallion now too. Now that medallion's so important just in trying to deal and focus down the only 2 real damage dealers on the team right now. Eventually that Prophet will become a factor, as we do see. He gets the last hit on the tier 1 at top, but TONGFU's going to have no problem with this. They're just going to shove down and go, okay, you want to try and base race with us when we have a Chen and we have this kind of a lead? We're going to take your tier 2, you can take our tier 2, but when you TP back to fight at your tier 3, we're willing to fight you. We have everything we need. We have an armlet, we have Mu with a Blink, we have a mechanism, we even have a medallion, so that when we catch the Weaver and we catch the Viper, they're just going to melt to nothing but physical and magic damage. So already at the tier 3, I mean, what can you do? Fnatic trying to get back into position. This tower already down to about half health. Hell, the tier 2 hasn't even dropped yet, so I'm surprised TONGFU's actually not a bit more committed to this. I would expect them to be a little bit further up on the lip of the steps here where they could engage. We see there's a net on Hani. Now we're going to see the waning rift. Call down's going to be there. Era being pursued out. Fly taking a lot of damage as well. There's a time lapse back. And now the counter initiation, they're going to mech through that damage. Hal sitting up front. He's the one with the Aegis, so he has no problem taking this damage. Tier 3's gone. Does get denied by the Nature's Prophet, but Trixie coiled down and cleaned up. Moo landing, and San Shing with one Fade Bolt knocks and notches a double kill. This is going to be a set of 19-minute racks. You want to talk about a dominant performance? TONGFU putting on a show. However, FNATIC wants a little bit of payback. The Overgrowth kicks off the fight. Era's there. We'll get one kill, but look at the damage already. Brought back down. Trixie threw out the Nature's Wraps. Doesn't matter. He's going to be forced out as well. And TONGFU, after dropping 2, forcing buybacks, takes down 2 more, a tier 3, and a set of racks. What a performance, all before 20 minutes.
TONGFU came to play. I think
No
everyone
joke.
is finding that out right now. So obviously brilliant performance out of TONGFU. They got all the openings they needed, and they took every single opportunity. And really, I can't fault them for any plays that they've made this game. Every decision they've made has pretty much been spot on. FNATIC just couldn't really find their footing ever since the beginning of the early game when we saw No-Tail end up getting taken out so early. And it really hurts to say, but stuff like that changes the complexion of the lanes so much that FNATIC had to lane switch almost immediately. And your game plan goes down so fast when you have to do stuff like that, especially with FNATIC's type of lineup, because it's not necessarily great at deep pushing, but it's really good at making sure that you can win your lanes. And when TONGFU were in the draft, they saw what FNATIC's game plan was. They were assuming the aggressive try, so instead of last picking something besides Gyrocopter, they took a hero that they knew in lane wouldn't really feel as much pressure as a Lifestealer would, and just sent King J bottom so he could actually get something done against the Nature's Prophet. So all in all, TONGFU's draft, their play, game number 1, I can't really find any faults.
Yeah, I mean, 12-2 really speaks volumes, and we already saw the gold graph, a gigantic lead for this Eastern team, this Chinese powerhouse that, again, whenever you think of really good Chinese Dota, the names that come to mind are no surprise. You think of IG, you think of LGD, etc., etc. TONGFU very often, for whatever, hang on, Trixie, gonna be brought. They're doing so much damage, I can't even call them fast enough. They're just blowing these heroes up 100-0 with a handful of spells. They're that far ahead, and more importantly, it's not just the gold. You've got 2 level 13 heroes on the side of TONGFU. The highest is 3 at level 11, but that's the same level as the supports. The highest level on the side of TONGFU right now, or the highest level on the side of FNATIC, is the same level as the supports on TONGFU. Just an utter dominating performance. And now they're going to go ahead, bring down one of 2 last remaining tier 2 towers, and they're rattling their saber now at the tier 3.
Well, as good as this game has gone for TONGFU, it just as easily could have gone that way for FNATIC had they not given away the free kills and such in the early game, because TONGFU's lineup, it can fall back on the fact that they have a Gyrocopter and a Lifestealer, but if FNATIC get any momentum with the kind of heroes that they had, it's really hard to come back. And oh, Hani.
Hani going to be telekinesis back. There's a coil, only catches 1. Hani actually made it away because of the Ghost Scepter, but trying to dodge out the orb. King J going to track him down almost certainly. One swipe and he's gone. That's a killing spree. Chen Hill, Hand of God, guarantees that TONGFU not going to be scared at all. Crystal Maiden just kind of flips the bird, giving the ulti just as San Shing pulls back. But, I mean, FNATIC at this point just really have no hope of defending these towers. You hate to make it sound so hopeless, but, yeah, there you go. Hani going to be telekinesis back in, brought down, and that's the GG. So you're talking a 22-minute route, Draskell. And coming into this match, again, FNATIC has been playing some phenomenal Dota, make no mistake. But TONGFU, a team many consider to be the dark horse of the entire tournament, just showed why they deserve so much respect.
Unbelievable play.